So last time we used sectional track to design this little layout here. This time I'd like to talk about adding insulators and power tracks so that you can run more than one train. I also want to talk about how to use the ruler to measure your layout. And I want to show you quickly how to draw a 4x8 piece of plywood to put your railroad on. And we're going to be using a little bit of XY coordinates, which is something we'll be getting into in more detail later on. Okay, so you want to run more than one train. So you're going to have to isolate some sections. So what we're going to do is we're going to assume that we want to isolate this little passing siding right here. So what we'll do is we'll come up to this connection point. We're going to right click on it. And we're going to add an isolator, just like that. And you'll see an isolator has been added. So now this is electrically isolated from this point to this point. So we have to do the same down here. So let's do that. Add an isolator. Now we want to make our engine service facility isolated, so we can leave an engine there if we want. So let's put an isolator right there. And we'd like to make our industrial trackage down here isolated. So let's put one right there. Now we have 4 sections that we need to power, so we'll have to add in the feeder tracks. I'm not going to show you how to do all 4. I'll just show you how to do 2 of them and how to cut the track into the existing plan. So let's go over and get our feeder tracks. So we'll need an 840, which is a 9-inch straight feeder. Let's grab one of those. And let's move that over here. And then we need this one, which is a curved 30-degree feeder. Let's put it there. And you'll notice it pops it up on top of our existing track plan. So if I were to go up here and try and grab this, but I accidentally clicked that and I moved it, now I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to move the whole thing. So if you do something like that, just do Control-Z, put it back, then go up, grab the right piece of track, and move it over. So let's put the curved feeder in this section right here. So we're going to highlight that piece of track. We're going to say delete. We're going to drag the feeder over, pop it in, and you'll notice it connected on both ends. And let's feed our industrial siding here. So let's take this piece of track out. And let's put our feeder in there. You'll notice it connected here, but it didn't connect here. Now I can take care of this 2 ways. I can take this piece of track and I can move it and then move it back and it snaps into place. Or, let me take that out. I can come up here and I can highlight that end piece. Let's zoom in just a tiny bit so you can see that. Come over here, highlight that. See that little triangular shape has highlighted. Right click, and then I hit connect. And there's my connection. And of course you'd want to add 2 more. You'd want to add a feeder here so you can feed your engine service. And you'd want to add a feeder out here which would feed the entire loop. So I just threw this track plan together. I have no idea how big it is or if it would even fit on a 4x8. So let's see how to measure. For that, we're going to use the ruler function. Now we can get to the ruler function 2 ways. We can come up here and we go to Insert, and there's Add Ruler. But we also put the shortcut in up here for Add Ruler. So let's just click on that. Come down here. Wherever you put your mouse, that's where the ruler will come in at, and it always comes in at 24 inches long. So let's highlight this guy. And you'll notice when it highlights, here comes our Tools tab, and now it says Rulers. And this is all the things we can do to the ruler. We can change the font, we can change the size of the text, we can change its color, we can change how wide it is. We can set a specific length. Or we can say we want it to be vertical or horizontal. In this case, we want it to be horizontal. So let's go down here and let's drag it. Oops, try and grab it. Drag it over here, and we're going to put it on the outside edge of the track. Then we're going to come over here, and we're going to highlight that in, turn purple. I'm going to drag it over here. We don't have to be that precise. And we see it's 90 3/4 inches. So it would fit an 8-foot table this way. Let's do a Control-Z. Now it's back to 24 inches. Let's highlight it and let's make it vertical. Come up here, put that end right there on that side of the track. Grab this side, drag it down, And we see it's 37 and 13/16, so it would fit a 4-foot wide table. So yay, it's going to fit. So now let's go about drawing a 4x8 piece of plywood. So let's get rid of this guy. We'll delete him. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to zoom out here. Now we can see our entire work area. I could have come up here and used fit to window or use my shortcut over here, but I just use control and the mouse wheel. So let's highlight our track plan, hold down the left mouse button, drag it over, everything turn green, grab a piece of it, and we're going to pull it down here. We don't need our track library anymore, so let's go get rid of that, make that one go away. And let's add in layers. Now I can do it up here, or I can go to Home and add layers. And now here's our Layers tab. So we've talked about XY coordinates before, and even though I'm going to show you an easier way to do it, I just want to touch on it briefly. This point up here in the drawing, that is 0, 0. And if you look down, you'll see that it says 1/16 and 7/16, because that's as precise as I can get at this zoom level. So to start drawing our sheet of plywood, let's zoom in on that. And we're going to drag the work area down. So now this corner up here is 0, 0. And actually it comes up down at the bottom as 0, 0. Because I'm zoomed in a little bit more, I can be more precise. Now we made the work area bigger than what we needed. And we're going to start our drawing point right here. 2 feet down, 2 feet down, 24 inches in on both sides. Now we want our plywood to be on a separate layer. That way we can work on the individual layers separately. So let's go up here and let's look at our entire drawing. And let's add a layer. We now have layer 1 and layer 2. Let's go up to layer 1. And we're going to rename that. Track plan. Sounds like a good name. I'm going to come down here and we're going to rename layer 2. And we're going to call it another highly original name, Plywood. So we're going to start drawing our tabletop. So we're going to go up here, we're going to go to Insert, and we're going to do Add Line. I could click Add Line up here as well. So let's click Add Line. I'm going to come down here, and we're going to start 2 feet down, 2 feet in. Let's zoom in a little bit so that we can see a little bit more what we're doing. Like that. Back up here, click line. Left click, we're going to draw it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to go up there, click right there. We're going to right click to stop drawing lines. Now I go over ways to draw lines and things you can do with it in video 42, and we're going to use some of that here. So let's get started on that. Now, as far as I know, in AnyRail, there is no way to draw a line by telling AnyRail how long you want it to be. And even if I come up here and I click on this line, if you look down at the bottom, it's not really telling me much of anything. So what I want to do here is I want to come over here. I want to go to this endpoint. Click on this endpoint. And it's right on 2424. So that's a good start. Now we're going to go over to the other side and we'll see where that one ends up at. It ends up at 119 7/8. So we're 1/8 of an inch off here. So what we'll do is we'll come up here and we're going to type in 120. Down here we're going to type in 24. So now we have a line exactly 8 feet long. Now I want to copy this line. I'm going to select it. I'm going to do a Control C, come down here, and I'm going to do a Control V. And you'll notice it didn't put it in at the center, it put it in at the end. So now we need to move this line so that it is exactly 4 feet down from our other line. And we're going to come up here and we're going to say move line. Right now it's on move point. If I type in new XY coordinates, it's only going to move this point. So this point would move up here, this point would stay. So I'm going to do move line. Now, we know our X is going to be 24 inches. So let's put in 24 inches. We'll hit enter. You'll notice it's moved the whole line over. Back and select that, make sure. And we got lucky. It's right on 72 inches, which is where we want it. Had it been off, we would have typed in a new value up here, and it would have moved the whole line into proper position. So now we've got two sides of our table. We need to get the other two sides. So let's go back up here, and we're just going to do this. We're going to do add line. I'm going to come over here because this is a nice convenient point to start from, and I'm going to draw a line. Right click, come up here, and you'll see I got it exact. It's exactly on 12 and 24. Let's see how good we did on this end. Not bad. So let's copy this line. We'll come over here. I'm going to put that in. I'm going to move that guy up. Now lines do not snap, so we're going to have to just place this manually. So let's select this point. We know our Y is already correct, so let's put in the correct Z, hit enter, and it connects. Down here, oops, I want to select the endpoint. We need to go, let's do this one first, let's make it 24. And then this one we know is going to be 120, and we'll hit enter. And there's our 4x8 table. Now I can come down here, and I can change the line width. And since I've selected all the lines, I'm going to do all the lines at once. So I'm going to make the line width 1/8 of an inch. Make it a little bit easier to see. And we're going to change the line color to something else. We're going to make it, let's make it green. There's our table. Actually, I think we should make that line a little bit wider. Let's go to 1/4. Much better. So there's the outline of our 4x8 sheet of plywood. Now we want to move this and then put the layout into it. But right now, if I come down here and I say, I want to move this table, and I just select one line, oops, I'm only moving that one line. I can come down here and I can select them all and I can move it that way. Or I can do this. Select them, right click, and say group. These 4 lines now form a group. And no matter which one you select, you're going to select all of them. Makes it easier to move. So let's zoom out. And just to confuse you a little bit more, I'm going to show you another way that we could draw the lines. So let's zoom back in. And I'm going to show you another way that we could draw that tabletop. Now remember, in settings, we had the lines and surfaces grid, and we could change that. What we could do here is we could change the size to, say, 2 inches. Right? It didn't change anything on screen, but it's going to change the behavior of how we draw. Now, when we draw a line, it's going to snap on 2-inch intervals. And since we're doing a 4x8 table, it's going to be whole numbers. There won't be any fractional inches or anything like that in there. It's going to be 96 inches long and 48 inches wide. So I could come up here now and I could select a line. I can come down here, get close to that corner. I got 2 inches to play with, but I want to get close to that corner. Snap there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Get close to that corner. Then come down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Snap there. Come back over here. Snap here. Come back up here. Snap there. I'm done. There's my table. I can check that. I can come down to this corner. I would expect a X of 120 and a Y of 72. Let's see what we got. 120 and 72. If you don't believe me, up there is 120 and 24. And now you'll notice that when I select it, it's all one entity. So if you need to draw a line or something like that for benchwork or anything, and it's going to be a whole number with no fractional or decimal inches in it, you can change your snap. But you got to remember to go back up and change the snap back. So let's do that right now. I'm not sure if group is going to be grayed out. Let's see what happens here. Yep, group is grayed out because it thinks that all these 4 lines that we drew all at the same time are now a group. We can also come in and I can select this, come up here, do the same thing, 1/4 inch, change my color. And now we have our green tabletop. Now all we have to do is put our track plan into our tabletop. So let's lose this tabletop down here. We don't really need that one. We're going to zoom out. So let's go down here and grab our track plan. We're just going to highlight the whole thing. Now we can move it as one entity. You can't group track, but you can create a section. And I haven't gone over that, and that would probably be in another video, but we're not going to worry about that now. Right now, we're just going to worry about moving our track plan up into our 4x8 table. So there we go. Now let's zoom in on it. And we'll just look at the ends. Well, we know this is the middle. So we'll put the middle of the 4x8 table running through this piece right here. And then we can look up here and we can say, well, look, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches here. Also, when we drag something as an entity, we get the little rotate handle here, but it's also in the middle of our entity. So you can tell we're right on the 4-foot line here. And over here, this little section is right on the 2-foot line. This is now centered in our table. I'm going to deselect it. And now I can go in, I can grab individual parts. Now you'll notice down at the bottom, when I highlight this piece of track, you'll see the words plywood and track plan. Where it says plywood, that's indicating your active layer that you're working on. Where you see track plan, that's indicating what layer that piece of track is located on. So all of my pieces of track are going to be on the track plan layer, which means if I wanted to, I could come up here, see that little light bulb? I could turn that off. And now I'm just looking at the piece of plywood. So I could come back now and I could start working on that piece of plywood. And I don't have to have the track plan visible and in my way. If I want to change layers, I come up here and I just click the other layer and it turns green. Now my active layer is track plan. If I select that piece of track again, you look down below, it says track plan on the left and track plan on the right. And this little box up here, that allows me to change a component to a different layer. So right now I have this switch highlighted. I could come up here and I could say, I'd rather have that on the plywood layer. Click that. Let me deselect everything. Now I come over here, I look at this piece of track. Down at the bottom it says track plan and track plan. Come over here and select this one. It says track plan and plywood. This piece is now on the plywood layer. So you can move items between layers. Let's put this guy back on the track plan layer. That'll make him happy. I don't know how many layers you can have. I'm hoping it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 256, because as you get into more and more complicated drawings, you're going to be adding more and more layers. Little tiny pieces of your layout are going to be added to a different layer. Your buildings will be on a separate layer, things like that. Okay, so that's how to add insulators and a quick tutorial on how to add a piece of plywood to act as your benchwork. I believe the next video is going to be working with grades. We're going to be putting some grades into our little track plan here. So we'll see you then.